Admiral Minho stood in the ruins of the Vextar capital city. The great towers that had reached toward the stars were now broken stumps of metal and stone. The streets where millions of aliens had once walked were empty and silent. The empire that had ruled 100 worlds was now just a memory and a warning. Behind him, human soldiers were setting up a communication array. In a few minutes, Admiral Minho would speak to every surviving alien civilization in the galaxy. The message he carried would change everything. "Sir, we're ready," Captain Nari said. She had survived the war and watched humanity reveal its true strength. Now she would help write the rules for the new galaxy. Minho nodded and stepped in front of the cameras. Across space, his image appeared on screens in alien cities, space stations, and military bases. Creatures of a dozen different species watched the human admiral with fear and curiosity. "People of the galaxy," Minho began, his voice calm and clear. 3,000 years ago, your ancestors and mine signed the Treaty of Silent Stars. That treaty brought peace to our worlds and prosperity to our people. He paused, looking directly into the camera. The Vextar chose to break that sacred promise. They attacked innocent humans who had never harmed them. They murdered families who had lived in peace for generations. They started a war because they believed humans had become weak. On 100 alien worlds, the Watchers shifted nervously. They had all seen what happened to the Vextar. The mighty empire had been destroyed in weeks, not years. Human ships had appeared from nowhere with weapons that defied understanding. The Vextar were wrong, Minho continued. Humans were never weak. We were patient. For 3,000 years, we prepared for the possibility that someone would choose war over peace. When that day came, we were ready. Director Yeon walked through the halls of the new Terran hegemony headquarters on Earth. Where the old United Nations had once met, humanity now governed a galactic empire. The transition had been swift and complete. Within months of the Vextar destruction, every alien government had requested human protection. Status report, Director Yeon requested from her aide. All major alien civilizations have signed the Terran Accords, the aide replied. The crystal beings of Kethmori, the sea creatures of Aquatica, the plant people of Verdania, they all agreed to human oversight. And the minor species? Those who have not signed are being encouraged. Captain Bin's protection fleets are visiting their homeworlds now. Captain Bin commanded one of the human protection fleets. These were not the hidden warships that had destroyed the Vextar. These were visible demonstrations of human power, designed to convince rather than destroy. But the message was clear. Accept human rule or face human wrath. The Aquatic Council of the Waterworld Oceania had been discussing human demands for 3 days. These were ancient beings who had ruled their oceans for 10,000 years. They were proud and independent, but they were not stupid. "The humans offer protection," said the first speaker, her gills fluttering with nervousness. "But protection from what? They are the only power in the galaxy now." "Protection from becoming like the Vextar," replied the war singer, an old warrior who remembered the first contact wars. "The humans are saying, accept our rule and live or refuse and die." Through the dome windows of their underwater city, they could see human ships floating above their world. The ships were beautiful and peaceful looking, but the Aquatic Council knew what they really were. They had seen the recordings from Vextar space. They had watched planets burn. "I vote to accept the Terran Accords," the first speaker announced. "Our children deserve to see tomorrow." One by one, the other council members agreed. Like every other alien government, they chose survival over pride. Back on Earth, President Day was meeting with the Shadow Council for the last time. Their 3,000-year mission was complete. Humanity had achieved what no species in galactic history had managed: total dominance without total war. "The galaxy is secure," General Quan reported. "All major threats are eliminated. All minor species are under our protection. The hidden fleets are returning to their bases." "What about resistance?" President Day asked. "There is none," Intelligence Director Wu replied. "The alien species understand that resistance means extinction. They saw what happened to the Vextar. They choose cooperation over destruction. The Terran Accords were simple and clear. Alien species could govern themselves as long as they followed human laws. They could trade and explore and build their civilizations, but they could not build weapons of war, they could not threaten other species, and they could never ever threaten humanity. In return, humans would protect them from external threats and internal conflicts. Human technology would help them solve their problems. Human medicine would cure their diseases. Human engineering would build their cities. It was not the cruel domination that the Vextar had practiced. It was firm but fair rule by a species that had proven its strength and wisdom. The aliens would be safe, but they would never again be dangerous. On a space station orbiting the ruins of the Vextar homeworld, Ambassador Kai met with representatives of the surviving alien governments. These diplomats had come to learn how to live in the new galaxy. The humans could have destroyed us all, said the representative from the crystal beings. Why did you spare us? Kai smiled the warm smile that the aliens remembered from the old days. But now they understood that behind that smile was the strength to crack planets and the will to use it. Because we are not the Vextar, Kai replied. We do not destroy for pleasure or conquer for pride. We rule because someone must, and we have proven we can be trusted with that responsibility. And if we had joined the Vextar attack, asked the plant person from Verdania, then you would have shared their fate, Kai said simply. The choice was always yours to make. The years passed and the new galactic order became normal. Human children grew up knowing they were citizens of the greatest empire in history. Alien children learned human languages alongside their own. Trade flowed between the worlds protected by human ships and human law. Sometimes young aliens would ask their elders about the old days, when different species had been equal. The elders would tell them about the Vextar and how an empire fell in weeks because it chose war over peace. Are humans evil? The young ones would ask. No, the elders would reply. Humans are strong, and they remember everything. The Treaty of Silent Stars was now displayed in a museum on Earth, alongside the Terran Accords that replaced it. Visitors from across the galaxy came to see these documents and understand the lesson they taught. Peace was not the absence of strength. Peace was strength held in check by wisdom and mercy. For 3,000 years, humans had offered that peace freely. When someone broke it, they learned that human mercy had limits but human memory did not. Admiral Minho often returned to Luna Base where the war had begun. He would sit in his old command chair and look out at the peaceful stars. Ships moved between the worlds carrying trade and families and dreams. Children played in the parks of distant colonies. Artists created beauty that would last for generations. It was the peace that humanity had always wanted. The difference was that now, everyone knew what would happen to anyone who tried to break it. The galaxy belonged to humanity, not because they had taken it by force, but because they had earned it through patience, wisdom, and the will to do what was necessary when necessary was called for. The stars were silent, and they would remain silent for as long as humanity watched over them. Commodore Sol watched through his ship's windows as the Vextar homeworld burned below. The planet that had been the center of a mighty empire was now a ball of fire in space. The orbital cities that had housed billions of aliens were falling, like burning stars into the atmosphere. Planet killer missiles have found their targets, his weapons officer reported. All major population centers are destroyed. Sol nodded. The missiles had been hidden in asteroid mining operations for centuries. The Vextar had watched human miners work around their homeworld system, never knowing that each mining platform contained enough firepower to crack a planet. When the time came, the miners had simply armed their weapons and fired. The Vextar had built their empire by conquering weaker races. They believed that strength meant bigger guns and more soldiers. They never understood that true strength meant thinking ahead, planning carefully, and being patient enough to wait for the right moment. On the bridge of his flagship, Emperor Vorthek the Eternal was no longer eternal. His golden eyes were dim with fear and pain. Half of his empire was gone. His military was defeated. His people were dying, and still the humans kept coming. Send a message to all human ships, Vorthek ordered his communications officer. Tell them I wish to surrender personally. Tell them I will give them anything they want. The message went out across space, reaching every human ship in the Vextar system. But the answer came from someone the Emperor had not expected. Ambassador Key appeared on his screen. She was an old human woman with gray hair and kind eyes. Vorthek remembered her from the peace conferences they had attended together. "Hello, old friend," Key said. Her voice was soft, but her words were like ice. "You wanted to speak with me? Kai, you must stop this madness," Vorthek pleaded. "We have been friends for decades. You know I am not a monster. This war is destroying everything we built together." Ambassador Key smiled, but it was not the warm smile the Emperor remembered. "We built nothing together, Vorthek. You built lies while we built truth. You planned betrayal while we planned defense." "I don't understand," the Emperor said. 3,000 years ago your people signed a treaty," Kai explained. "But you never stopped seeing humans as enemies. You studied our colonies. You mapped our defenses. You waited for us to become weak so you could destroy us." Vorthek's 4 hands trembled. "How do you know this?" "Because we were watching you." "Watch us," Kai replied. "Every spy you sent to human space reported back to us. Every secret plan you made we knew about. Every weapon you built, we built a better one." The truth hit the Emperor like a physical blow. For 3,000 years he had thought he was playing a clever game. He had believed his people were patient and smart, waiting for the right time to strike. But the humans had been playing a deeper game, using the Vextar's own plans against them. "You knew we would attack?" Vorthek whispered. "We knew you would try," Kai said. "The only question was when. We used that time to prepare. Every peaceful year you gave us made us stronger. Every day you waited gave us another day to build weapons. You could not imagine." On the planet below, Dr. May's Biological Warfare Division was finishing their work. The virus they had released was spreading through every Vextar city. It was designed to affect only Vextar DNA, so it would not hurt any other species. But for the aliens who had broken the sacred treaty, it was a death sentence written in their own genes. The virus moved faster than Vextar medicine could stop it. It turned their greatest strength against them. The Vextar reproduced quickly, having many children to build their empire. But the virus used that same rapid breeding to spread through their population in days instead of years. Dr. May watched the reports from her laboratory ship. She was a gentle woman who had spent her life studying diseases to cure them. But when the Vextar chose war over peace, she had turned her healing knowledge into a weapon of extinction. "The biological agent has reached all major population centers," Dr. May reported to Admiral Tay. "Infection rate is 90% and climbing. The Vextar immune system cannot adapt fast enough." "How long?" Tay asked. 6 months for complete species elimination," Dr. May replied. "Maybe less." It was a horrible way to die, but Dr. May felt no guilt. The Vextar had chosen to murder innocent humans. They had broken a promise that had kept the galaxy safe for 3,000 years. They had earned their fate. As the Vextar Empire collapsed, other alien races began to understand what was happening. The peaceful humans who had traded with them for centuries were revealing their true nature. Every human trader, every human diplomat, every human scientist had been a soldier in disguise. The sleeper agents were everywhere. On alien homeworlds, in alien governments, in alien military commands. Humans who had lived among aliens for generations suddenly revealed themselves. They took control of communication networks, power plants, and defense systems. The aliens discovered that humans had been inside their societies for so long that they knew every secret, every weakness, every fear. When the war began, the aliens found that their own systems were working against them. Ambassador Key was still talking to Emperor Vorthek, explaining how completely the Vextar had been outplayed. "Every treaty meeting we attended together, you thought you were learning about human weakness, but we were learning about your plans." "You're monsters," Vorthek said. His voice was breaking. "You smiled at our children, you ate at our tables, you pretended to be our friends." "We were your friends," Key replied. "For 3,000 years we offered you real peace. You could have lived forever in harmony with humanity, but you chose to see us as enemies. You chose to plan our destruction, so we planned yours. The Emperor looked at his burning homeworld and his dying empire. You planned all of this. We planned for every possibility, Kai said. We hoped you would choose peace. We prepared for the chance you would choose war. You made your choice. Now you live with the consequences. The Vextar military tried one last desperate attack. Their surviving ships gathered around their Emperor's flagship, preparing to make a final stand. But the human ships did not even bother to fight them. Instead, they simply waited. The Vextar ships began to break down one by one. Their engines failed. Their weapons stopped working. Their life support systems shut down. The alien crews died, not in battle but in the cold darkness of space as their ships became tombs. How? Vorthek asked as his own flagship began to fail around him. Maintenance, Kai said simply. For centuries, human engineers serviced your ships. We built every part, programmed every computer, designed every system. When we wanted your ships to die, we just told them to stop working. Emperor Vorthek the Eternal closed his golden eyes. His empire was gone. His people were dying. His ships were dead in space. The humans had won the war before it even began. Why? He asked. Why not just kill us 3,000 years ago? Ambassador Key's expression softened slightly. Because we hoped you would learn to choose peace over war. Because we believed that friendship was possible. Because humans prefer to build rather than destroy. But we chose war, Vorthek said. Yes, Kai replied. And so you chose extinction. The screen went dark, leaving the Emperor alone with his dying empire and the terrible knowledge that his people's fate had been sealed by their own hatred. Fleet Admiral Tay stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Silent Thunder. For 3,000 years, this ship had waited in the dark between stars. Now it moved through space like a ghost, invisible to all sensors. The Vextar had no idea what was coming for them. All shadow fleets report ready, her second-in-command said. We have 1,000 ships in position around Vextar space. Tay nodded. The humans had mapped every Vextar world, every ship, every weapon. While the aliens thought humans were peaceful traders, human spies had been counting their enemies and learning their secrets. Today all that patient work would pay off. Begin Operation Silent Thunder, Tay ordered. Show them what happens when you break a promise to humanity. The first target was a Vextar military base near their border. The aliens had built it to attack human colonies, but they had made it using old thinking. They put big guns and thick armor on their base, but they never imagined weapons that could reach through space itself. Captain Hana commanded the stealth destroyer Phantom's Edge. Her ship was so advanced that it could hide inside the shadow of a planet. She watched the Vextar base through sensors that the aliens could not detect. Target confirmed, Hana whispered to her crew. 50 enemy ships, multiple weapons platforms. They're celebrating their attack on our colonies. The Vextar soldiers were indeed celebrating. They thought they had won a great victory by destroying Kepler Station. They were drinking their strange blue liquor and talking about how easy it had been to kill humans. Captain Hana smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Fire quantum torpedoes. The weapons that left her ship did not travel through normal space. They moved through dimensions that the Vextar had never discovered. One moment, the alien base was there, strong and proud. The next moment it was gone, turned into cosmic dust. The Vextar soldiers never knew what hit them. Their sensors showed nothing. Their shields blocked nothing. Their weapons fired at nothing. They died wondering how 50 warships could vanish. In an instant, base destroyed, Hana reported. No survivors, no witnesses. All across Vextar space, the same thing was happening. Human ships appeared from nowhere, struck like lightning, and vanished again. The aliens who had felt so strong when attacking peaceful colonies now felt the fear that their victims had felt. The Vextar High Command was in panic. Their emperor, Vorthek the Eternal, called for his military leaders. These were proud warriors, who had conquered dozens of worlds. But now they stood before their emperor with fear in their eyes. How many bases have we lost? Vorthek demanded. 17 in the last hour, his general replied. We cannot see the human ships. They attack and disappear like ghosts. Vortex slammed his fist on his throne. 3,000 years ago, humans had been strong fighters, but that was ancient history. The current humans were supposed to be soft and weak. They were traders and farmers, not soldiers. Contact our allies, Vortex ordered. Call the Kethmori Collective. Tell them we need help. But Intelligence Director Wu had been expecting this. She worked from a secret base hidden inside Earth's moon. For centuries, she had been watching all alien communications. Every message, every secret, every plan. The humans knew what their enemies would do before the enemies knew themselves. The Vextar are calling for help, Wu reported to Admiral Minho. They want the Kethmori to join the fight. Are the crystal beings going to help them? Minho asked. Wu smiled. It was the same cold smile that Captain Hana had worn. The Kethmori leadership died 3 days ago. Nano-poisoning. They think it was a disease, but it was our gift to them. The nano-agents had been placed in Kethmori food supplies years earlier. They were designed to activate only when needed. When the Vextar broke the treaty, the tiny machines woke up and did their job. The crystal beings who might have helped, the Vextar were now fighting for their own survival. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Ray was leading a boarding party onto a captured Vextar command ship. The aliens had built their ships to be strong against energy weapons and missiles. They had not built them to resist humans who could walk through walls. Breach in 3 seconds, Ray told her team. They wore armor that could bend light and sound. The Vextar sensors could not see them, and their bio-armor could not stop human weapons. The boarding party appeared in the middle of the Vextar bridge like death itself. The alien captain tried to activate his emergency defenses, but his control panels would not respond. Human computer viruses had been sleeping in every Vextar system for decades, waiting for this moment. Surrender your ship, Ray demanded, pointing a molecular disruptor at the alien captain. The Vextar captain looked at his dead crew and his broken controls. His mighty warship had been taken by a dozen humans in less than a minute. How? He whispered. We had 3,000 years to get ready, Ray replied. You gave us all the time we needed. The human boarding parties were taking Vextar ships faster than the aliens could count them. Each captured vessel revealed more alien secrets. But the secrets were useless because humans already knew them all. Back on the Silent Thunder, Admiral Tay watched the battle reports with satisfaction. The Vextar military was crumbling like a house made of sand. Their best ships were captured or destroyed. Their strongest bases were cosmic dust. Their allies were dying from human-made plagues. Ma'am, her communications officer said. We're receiving a message from the Vextar Emperor. He wants to talk. Put him on screen, Tay ordered. Vorthek the Eternal appeared on the main display. He was a tall, blue-skinned being with 4 arms and golden eyes. 3,000 years ago, he had been young and proud when he signed the Treaty of Silent Stars. Now he was old and afraid. Human Admiral, Vorthek said, there has been a mistake. My people acted without my knowledge. We wish to return to the old treaty. Tay stared at the alien emperor with eyes like ice. You personally ordered the attack on Kepler Station. You told my people that humans had grown weak. You said the galaxy belonged to the strong. I was wrong, Vorthek stammered. Humans are still strong, stronger than we remembered. Please, there has been enough death. No, Tay said quietly. There has not been enough death. You broke sacred trust. You murdered innocents. You started a war thinking we were sheep. Her voice became harder. Now you will learn what wolves can do. The screen went dark. The Emperor of the Vextar had just received humanity's answer. There would be no mercy, no second chances, no new treaties. The aliens had spent 3,000 years thinking they understood humans. They had seen human kindness and mistaken it for weakness. They had seen human patience and thought it was surrender. They had watched humans build peaceful lives and believed that humans had forgotten how to fight. But humans never forgot anything important. They remembered every kindness and every cruelty. They remembered who their friends were and who their enemies were. Most importantly, They remembered that sometimes the only way to keep peace was to be ready for war. The hunt was just beginning, and the Vextar were learning that they were not the hunters. They were the prey. President Day walked down a hallway that did not exist on any map. Deep under the Earth's surface, hidden beneath layers of rock and metal, was a place that most humans had never heard of. The Shadow Council had been meeting in this room for 3,000 years, but today was different. Today the waiting was over. The council members sat around a black table. These were not the politicians that people saw on television. These were the guardians of humanity's greatest secret. They had different faces and names over the centuries, but their job had never changed. They were the watchers in the dark, the planners of the long game. The Vextar have made their move, President Day said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were hard as stone. They think they have caught us sleeping. They are wrong. General Quan stood up. She was a small woman with scars on her hands from working with machines. For 50 years she had been building things in secret. Ships that looked like cargo vessels, weapons that looked like mining tools, soldiers that looked like farmers, and teachers. Protocol Omega is ready, General Quan said. All systems are green. The sleepers are waiting for orders. She pressed a button on the table. Across human space, signals went out to hidden receivers. On peaceful farm worlds, storage barns opened to reveal missile launchers. In asteroid mining stations, workers pulled away fake walls to show giant cannons. The cargo ships that had been trading with aliens for centuries began to change, like flowers opening in the sun. Commander Yuki was on one of those ships when the signal came. She had been pretending to be a merchant captain for 20 years. Her ship, the Peaceful Dawn, carried food and supplies to alien colonies. Everyone knew her as a friendly trader who always had a smile and a joke. But when the secret message arrived, Yuki's face became cold and serious. She walked to a panel that her alien friends had seen 1,000 times. It looked like a normal engine control. But when she pressed her hand against it, the panel read her DNA and opened. Inside was another control room. This one had weapons that could destroy planets, shields that could stop any attack, engines that could move faster than anything the aliens had ever built. "This is Commander Yuki to all shadow ships," she said into her radio. "The dawn is breaking. I repeat, the dawn is breaking." All across the galaxy, human ships began to change. The peace had been a lie. Not the kind of lie that hurt people, but the kind that protected them. For 3,000 years, humans had been building the greatest military force in galactic history. They had done it slowly, carefully, so that no one would notice. The aliens had been watching, but they had been watching the wrong things. They saw human children playing in parks. They saw human artists making beautiful paintings. They saw human scientists studying flowers and birds. What they did not see were the other humans, the ones who never stopped preparing for war. Engineer Bach was one of those hidden humans. He worked at a solar power station near Jupiter. Every day for 30 years he had checked the giant mirrors that collected sunlight. Alien visitors often came to see the peaceful human technology. They took pictures and wrote reports about how humans loved clean energy. But the mirrors were not just for collecting sunlight. When Bach got the Protocol Omega signal, he typed in a special code. The mirrors turned and focused on hidden crystals buried in the asteroids around Jupiter. The crystals began to glow with power that could tear holes in space itself. "Sol system. Defense grid is online," Bach reported. "All quantum cannons are ready to fire." The quantum cannons had been disguised as mining equipment for centuries. Alien ships had flown past them thousands of times, never knowing they were looking at the most powerful weapons ever built. The humans had been very patient. They had smiled and waved at their alien neighbors while building tools that could destroy entire fleets. On Earth's moon, Admiral Minho was beginning to understand. The priority messages were coming faster now, and each one revealed another piece of the puzzle. The human defense fleet was not just 50 old cargo ships. The real fleet had been hiding in places where no one thought to look. "Sir, Captain," Nari said, "I'm getting reports from the outer systems. Human ships are changing. The Morning Star just grew 3 times bigger. The Happy Trader is showing weapons that don't exist in our databases." Minho smiled for the first time since the attacks began. They exist, Captain. They've always existed. We just kept them hidden. The Vextar had made their calculations based on what they could see. They counted human ships and human weapons and human soldiers. They thought they knew how strong humanity was, but they had been counting shadows while the real power slept in the dark. In deep space, far from any star, something huge began to move. It looked like an asteroid, a dead rock floating in the emptiness. But when the awakening signal reached it, the rock cracked open like an egg. Inside was a space station the size of a small moon, filled with ships that had been waiting for 3,000 years. The commander of the hidden base was Admiral Tay. She had been born in space, raised in secret, trained for a war that might never come. Her whole life had been spent preparing for this moment. When the Vextar broke the treaty, she was ready. "Shadow Fleet Command to all units," Admiral Tay said. "This is not a drill. The long sleep is over. All ships, prepare for immediate deployment." Thousands of warships began to leave their hiding places. They came from inside planets, from behind moons, from dimensions that aliens did not know existed. Each ship was a masterpiece of technology that had been perfected in secret. They were fast, powerful, and completely invisible to alien sensors. The humans had learned something important from the first contact wars 3,000 years ago. They had learned that the strongest army was the one your enemy never saw coming. They had spent centuries building that army, ship by ship, weapon by weapon, soldier by soldier. Dr. Hyun was still crying when Admiral Minho showed him the truth. On the screens around Luna Command, the real human fleet was appearing. Ships rose from ocean floors and emerged from mountain caves. Space stations that had looked like research facilities opened like flowers to reveal massive gun arrays. "But how?" Dr. Hyun asked. "I worked with the aliens every day. I never saw any of this." "That was the point," Minho said. "The treaty was real. The peace was real. But we never forgot that peace only lasts as long as everyone wants it to last." The Vextar had thought they were hunting sheep. They were about to learn they had woken sleeping wolves. Wolves that had been sharpening their teeth in the dark for 3,000 years, waiting for someone to break the sacred trust. The real war was about to begin. Admiral Minho sat in his command chair on Luna Base, watching the peaceful stars through the giant window. For 3,000 years, the galaxy had been quiet. No wars, no fighting, just trade and friendship between humans and aliens. The treaty of silent stars had kept everyone safe for so long that most people forgot why it was made. Minho remembered the old stories his grandfather told him. Stories about the first contact wars when humans met aliens for the first time. Blood and fire. Across the stars, millions dead on both sides. Then came the peace treaty, and everything changed. Humans became traders and explorers. They built cities on far planets and made friends with strange creatures from distant worlds. The alarm bell rang loud and sharp. Minho jumped up from his chair. His second-in-command, Captain Nari, ran into the room with fear in her eyes. "Sir, we have a problem," Nari said, breathing hard. "The Kepler station is under attack." Minho felt his blood turn cold. "Attack? By who?" "The Vextar," Nari replied. "Their ships came out of nowhere. They're bombing the station." This was impossible. The Vextar had signed the treaty. They were one of the first alien races to make peace with humans. Their tall, blue-skinned leaders had shaken hands with human diplomats 3,000 years ago. They had kept their word all this time. "Are you sure?" Minho asked. Nari showed him the screen. Dark ships with strange designs were firing red beams at the space station. The beams were so hot they turned metal into gas. People were screaming. On the radio, ships were trying to escape, but the alien weapons were too fast. "Get me a line to the Vextar command," Minho ordered. "Sir, we tried. They won't answer our calls." Minho watched the screen as more Vextar ships appeared. They moved like hunters surrounding their prey. The human defense ships at Kepler Station were old and slow. They had been built for peace, not war. The alien weapons cut through them like paper. Captain Nari was trying to save the people on the station. She sent orders to all human ships in the area. "This is Luna Command. All ships help with the evacuation. Get the people out now." But there were not enough ships. The Vextar attack was too sudden, too strong. Human families who had lived on Kepler Station for generations were trapped. Their children had never seen war. They did not know how to fight. Dr. Hyun burst into the command room. He was the head of alien relations, a thin man with gray hair who had spent his whole life making friends with alien races. His face was white with shock. "I got a message from the Vextar High Command," Dr. Hyun said. His voice was shaking. "They said humans have grown weak. They said the galaxy belongs to the strong now." Minho felt anger rise in his chest. After 3,000 years of peace, they do this? More alarms started ringing. Reports came in from across human space. The Vextar were not just attacking Kepler Station. They were hitting human colonies everywhere. Farms on distant planets were burning. Mining stations were destroyed. Peaceful human settlements that had never hurt anyone were turning into graves. The alien attack was planned and organized. They had studied human defenses for years. They knew exactly where to hit and when. Every attack came at the same time, like a giant fist closing around human space. "Sir," Nari said, "I'm getting reports from New Sol Colony. They're under attack too, and Busan Station, and the farming worlds near the outer rim." Minho closed his eyes. This was not a small raid. This was total war. The Vextar wanted to destroy all humans in the galaxy. "How many ships do we have?" Minho asked. "In this sector? Maybe 50 defense ships. Most of them are old cargo vessels with light weapons." It was not enough. The human fleet had been built for peace. Their ships carried scientists and families, not soldiers and weapons. For 3,000 years, humans had trusted the treaty. They had believed that friendship was stronger than fear. On the screen, Kepler Station was breaking apart. The great metal rings that had spun in space for centuries were cracking under the alien attack. Thousands of people were dying. Men and women who had worked hard to build new lives among the stars. Children who had been born in space and never seen Earth. Dr. Hyun was crying now. "I don't understand. The Vextar ambassador was my friend. We had dinner together last month. He talked about his children. Why would they do this?" Minho put his hand on the old man's shoulder. "Because they think we're weak. They think 3,000 years of peace made us soft." But something felt wrong to Minho. He was a military man, even though there had been no military for a long time. He remembered the old lessons from the war colleges. The first rule of war was to know your enemy. Had the Vextar really studied humans for 3,000 years? Had they really learned everything about human nature? "Sir," Nari said, "I'm getting a priority message from Earth. It's coded at the highest level." Minho took the message tablet. The words on the screen made his heart race. It was from President Day himself. The message was short and simple, but it changed everything. "Protocol Omega is now active. Await further instructions. The sleepers are waking up." Minho had never heard of Protocol Omega, but something in those words made him feel different. Less afraid, more dangerous. He looked at the screen where Kepler Station was dying. The Vextar ships were moving away now, looking for new targets. They thought they had won an easy victory. They thought humans would surrender or run away, but they had made one big mistake. They thought they knew everything about humans. They thought 3,000 years of watching had taught them all human secrets. What they did not know was that humans were very good at keeping secrets, very good at being patient, and very good at remembering who their enemies were. The war was just beginning.